Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Blood, Sweat, and Beers NFL podcast. My name's Eric. This is my friend Josh. You may notice we're in a little bit different setup here today. We moved out of my garage down to my basement, hence all of the storage and playthings. It's freaking cold outside, so we're going to hang out downstairs here and stay nice and warm. How are you doing today, Josh?
Doing well, and actually, Eric's being very modest. We're actually in Maui at our new set. This podcast is going so well. We have this new beautiful set that we're
Just
working
influx of cash coming in.
on.
And
Cash flow is just unlimited.
yeah.
But all seriousness, I'm doing well. It is cold out. It got really cold here in North Dakota for you non-North Dakota viewers. But another exciting week of football. A lot to talk about.
Yeah.
A lot of different things that are going on, not only in the NFC North, but also quarterback controversies.
Yeah.
A lot of good things. So
Yeah, and we do apologize. It's been a few weeks. As you guys know, life happens, and you just get busy sometimes. You know, both of us got families, and but that did not slow us down from watching some good football.
Never
so
does,
we'll get
yep.
you caught up on all the latest, and I think we'll start off with just some Week 12 reactions here from last week, and just some of the breakdowns of some of the different games. So should we get into how about the Bears and the Jets?
yeah, Bears and Jets. I mean, it's kind of what I expected, especially once I heard Justin Fields wasn't going to be on the field. Wasn't I mean? Instead, we saw Trevor Siemian, someone we saw with the Broncos and some other teams. He's kind of a, journeyman of sorts. Played all right, 179 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. David Montgomery, 79 yards. Claypool actually started to contribute, 51 yards, 2 catches. But you can obviously tell that without Justin Fields, that offense is just different.
Yeah.
Right?
It started off in the beginning of the game like, oh wow, this is going to be a pretty good game. You got Mike White going at it, and who was that? Trevor Siemian. Like he looked pretty good on his first drive, but then it kind of went downhill from there. 31-10, Jets won. Some of the stat lines from that game, obviously Mike White with the huge game, 22 for 28, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then Garrett Wilson, the rookie, 5 for 95 and 2 touchdowns. So really looking comfortable with Mike White being there in the quarterback. Josh, do we have a bit of a quarterback controversy there in New York?
I mean, it's quite possible. I've been hearing rumblings of, a lot of Wilson's teammates don't even like him. And, with his answer of, hey, do you feel like you left the defense down? Well, yeah, of course he did, right? I mean, you always scored,
Yeah.
what was it, 3 points or whatever it was, and 77 yards. And
Yeah, it was.
I mean, your defense just does such a good job. And
Yeah, they really do. I think they're one of the top scoring defenses in the league this
Absolutely.
year. Yeah, I mean, Mike White, as good as a showing that was, I don't think he is the answer, but I think he's a serviceable quarterback, and I think that's the spark that this team needs right now,
Right.
for him to get in there, because their defense is doing enough. I saw the stat the other day that the Jets are undefeated this season when they're scoring 17 points or more. So if you just get a quarterback in there and just runs the offense, sometimes what you need is just that systematic style of just doing your 3-step, 5-step, 7-step dropbacks, whatever, and getting that first read in, the second read if the first one doesn't work out, and just making those passes that you have memorized in your head, trusting the receivers to get open, and then also sticking with the run game too. When the coach calls a run, don't be switching away from it, and just running that systematic offense that the Jets got going there. I think they'll be doing all right with Mike White. I mean, like I said, he's not going to be, a flashy top 10 quarterback, but sometimes all you need is one to just get the job done there. So
Yeah, and you put it well there, I think. He's not probably the quarterback of the future, but I think he is the quarterback for this year if they're wanting to go further. If they want to see how far they can push this season, because been a successful season, kind of a surprise one. So I say you stick with them this year and then reevaluate.
yeah, and just kind of my thoughts on the fly with that. So you stick with them. Say they get that really good spark, they get going, and maybe they're like a fringe playoff team. Maybe not really, but either way, they don't really finish that well to have one of the top picks in the draft. So then you got to kind of think of going with Mike White next year.
Yeah.
Or really hammering down Zach Wilson and Mike White for this job there. And I mean, you probably got to roll with one of these guys next year. I don't see them in a situation where they're going to draft another quarterback here.
No.
I mean, especially if Mike White does well enough to where they get, right on that fringe playoff contention. I don't see why you wouldn't just bring him back. Maybe you do go and get another quarterback in the draft, but just a little later and have them kind of work behind those two.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
I'm thinking Zach Wilson hopefully will learn from this and maybe see how Mike White kind of commands the offense and kind of goes through more than one progression and kind of not go, because Zach Wilson's main thing has been he's always after the wow plays. And if it's not the wow plays, he's really not that accurate.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll learn to develop his game and this will be a humble pie for him.
Right.
But yeah, solid game. Garrett Wilson, I think this was kind of his coming of age game. Really, really good game for him. So good to see him involved in the offense.
Yeah, for sure.
Next one on board, we have Vikings versus Patriots. I watched a little bit of this game. This was actually a pretty good game. It was close.
Yeah.
I think Mac Jones played really well. I think, he had threw for 382 yards, so I think he played really well.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a Thanksgiving Day game. A lot of people were tuning into that game.
Yep.
Eating their turkeys, and I know I certainly was. But yeah, Mac Jones had a solid game. But even better were the Minnesota Vikings. I think they improved. 9-2 or?
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah, it's. Dalvin Cook. I have him on my stat sheet here for the leading rusher of the game. 22 for 42 yards, so not a stellar performance. Right. I think actually Ramondre Stevenson had a better day overall because he had more reception yards and stuff.
He did. Yeah.
But then Justin Jefferson, not slowing down, 9 receptions, 139 yards, 1 touchdown. That Vikings team looks pretty good. So my question is then, are we due for another playoff collapse from the Minnesota Vikings? Or do you think they are the team to go in there and beat up on the Philadelphia Eagles? We'll get to them in a little bit, but
if I'm going to be honest, if you're asking the question right on the spot, I say no. And I mean that only because I think the Vikings' weak point is their defense. Their offense is fine, it's clicking, but you do see some lapses in their defense where they get burned. And I don't know if they can catch up with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, so, and we'll talk about the Eagles in a little bit too, but look how many points the Packers put up on the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles defense,
they're susceptible too.
Yeah, they lost one of their safeties in that game, so we'll have to keep an eye on that, but they're susceptible too. So I have in my notes here, at the end of the day, the team who can run the ball better, I think, is going to win that game, and I think Dalvin Cook is a much better running back than Miles Sanders. Obviously the Green Bay's run defense is kind of suspect, but the Eagles aren't really that great either at the run defense. They got a really good pass rush going, I think, but I think the Vikings can find a way to be able to run the ball effectively, and the Eagles as well. You're right, the Vikings defense is suspect, so I think no matter what, that game is going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely.
When it comes to the playoffs. I think they will play each other.
I do too.
So I think it's going to be high scoring, and I'm excited for it.
Another stat line, Thielen and Hawkinson did get involved in that game as well. It was nice to see Thielen catch a couple balls. I think he had 52 yards, something like that, and Hawkinson a couple balls for 36 yards there.
Did they both have touchdowns, right?
No, I don't believe Hawkinson did. Well, trying to think here. It doesn't matter. Vikings still took care of business.
Yeah.
Patriots, they're so fringe on, are they a playoff team, are they not?
Yeah.
That's really tough. not to get off NFC North topic, but obviously Mac Jones can play when the system's right. Obviously Stevenson's a good running back. Their defense probably has one of the best defensive coaches that's ever coached in Bill Belichick. So always in contention, but I can't answer that right now. I guess we'll see how the season goes.
Yeah. I'll get off the topic of the NFC North just real quick. While we were talking about Thanksgiving, I saw something that said the Giants-Cowboys game was the most viewed game, like, ever.
Wow.
I think. I mean, well, maybe it wasn't. I think maybe it was Thanksgiving Day game. Because obviously you have your Super Bowls and stuff like that. But, so why do you think that is? It was broadcast on Fox, Cowboys, and Giants. Got any ideas?
Well,
I'll tell you what, they got a new commentating crew on Fox this year. So, I think people just didn't want to tune in and listen to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman have their show down there. So
probably true.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's America's team. People love their Cowboys.
Yeah.
And it's a potential 2 playoff teams, but yeah, I think you're onto something. I mean,
well, it was nice for Joe Buck and Troy Aikman to get a Thanksgiving day off. It was. I think it was their first day off on Thanksgiving for like the past 22 years. I mean, they've been a duo on Fox for a long time.
Oh, for sure.
22 years. Does that sound right? Is that how long Aikman has been?
I don't feel that's right. I mean, it could be 10,
I mean, it's
15.
2022, so 2000, that was Aikman time, wasn't it?
Could be, yeah. His eye's been red ever since, so that's just terrific.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk Packers-Eagles. It was a great Sunday Night Football game, honestly. I was kind of hoping to be, to go in there and be like, yeah, we're going to be that upset team. And I think a lot of people were as well. I mean, even the Giants and Cowboys fans, they were all rooting for the Packers too. Trying to get the
number one
Eagles knocked off of their high horse right there. And I mean, I thought it was a good game. Final score 40-33 Eagles. What are your thoughts on the game? Before I go into mine.
A couple things I noticed. And now that we kind of know a little bit more of what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, I saw another wildly, kind of inaccurate throws. Throws where receivers kind of had to go to the ground and grab it.
Yeah, to open up that game, none of his passes were spirals.
No.
They were all just ducks.
All of them. Couple picks again. But again, if I've never thrown with a broken thumb, so I can't really relate to it. I'm sure it's tough. I'm sure you lose a lot of spin on your ball. But at that point, you kind of have to, swallow your pride and maybe help the next guy up. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, they did their thing. 108 yards combined, 1 TD. So I think that's pretty much a pretty common thing in their games is they combine for over 100 yards. So that's really not the problem. Again, I'll allude to it. Their problem is their run defense.
Right.
The Eagles feasted on them. Jalen Hurts, I think, had over 150 yards, 153 yards rushing.
He had over 100 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah. I mean, 153 yards passing, 157 yards rushing. That's hard to beat. And Miles Sanders on his game, too.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was a good game. I think they kept it competitive. Christian Watson, fantastic play, where he kind of took that slant in the middle of the field and then cut up field and ran it to the house. That's good. Good for him. I think he's finally getting that confidence.
Good for him. Even better for Jordan Love to be the one to make that throw.
Heck yeah.
So, no, but I'd also like to give credit to the Philadelphia Eagles coaches. I think, going into the preparation for the week of their game against the Packers, they knew that all they needed to do was feature that run game. Mm-hmm. They knew they had that strength in Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders. Both had a really nice game. And it's worked out for them. I know as a Packers fan, a lot of us say that, dude, just run the ball. All you need to do is run the ball. I've even preached it in previous podcasts too. Like, they give. So he's been in Matt LaFleur's offense for 3 or 4 years now. So he kind of gets a little more freedom now, and when you give him that, it's just RPOs after RPOs. This read pass option, and
Yep.
the coach calls a run play, and Aaron Rodgers just does his thing and wants to be that guy making all the big plays and throwing those balls instead of running them, and it's just frustrating because you see how effective their running game is. Anytime they get those tosses out to Jones, or even if it's just Jones out in the flat, you're just getting the ball to him. It's pretty much a run play in that instance, and so. I mean, I think you're right with the run defense. I do think it's an overreaction to say though that the team is worse because of Aaron Rodgers. I don't think it's necessarily because of Aaron Rodgers is why they're struggling.
No.
Broken thumb and all, and so I mean, he had come out and he said, as long as we're mathematically alive, I want to be out there, and I can agree with that. I mean, it's been like that for the past. How many years has he been in this league? 15, 16, something like that. And anytime you have Aaron Rodgers out on the field, you always have a chance.
You do.
So, as a coach, unless it's something like, I mean, he had that rib injury in the game or oblique or something. Yeah. So, unless it's something where, he's got like multiple fractures in his ribs or he's got some kind of tear in his oblique or something, I think then you sit him. But I don't think there's a question. It's you just got to start Aaron Rodgers. It was nice to see Jordan Love get out there and get some time. He looked really good. All of his reads were solid. There were some drop passes by wide receivers, but his throws were good. I agree with the coaches and Rodgers' mentality. As long as they're mathematically alive, sure, you put them in there because that's. You hate to think as a Packers fan like, wow, that sack right there was the last play I'll ever see him as a Packer, So it's like I do want to, squeeze it out right until the bitter end and at least have him finish the season or something. Or, I just don't know though what I would say if they weren't mathematically in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, if it's up to so are we going to hear it from Rodgers or are we going to hear it from the coaches, whether or not he's playing? You know what I mean? Because, like, if they're mathematically out of it, but Rodgers is just like, I love the game of football, I want to play. Well, I mean, do you start him? And if you don't start him, what does that do to the locker room or to the fan base or... Man, it's tough. You would like to see what you have in Jordan Love as a Packers fan, but I think the coaches already know what they have in Jordan Love. So I think they're confident, and I think they're just playing the waiting game. And, I mean, we'll see what happens there. But
I think Aaron Rodgers has earned the right to call his shots as far as does he play or does he not play. I mean, multiple-time MVP. As you said, when he's in the game, they're in the game. You know what I mean? There's always a chance that they can come back. And I've still seen some really good passes from him. In fact, that laser from him to Aaron Jones in the end zone was beautiful in that game. Great route, too, by Aaron Jones. So I think you are in a tough spot because Jordan Love's contract's ending very soon.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also very good to see him very confident in the huddle, very confident, throwing the ball and actually seeing the field. And it kind of seemed slow to him, didn't it? Kind of seemed like it was slowing down. And
everything, I had mentioned it in the other game, but it was very systematic.
Yeah.
He knew the offense. You could tell he knew the offense. He was reading the defense, too. I mean, I think the first play on the game was, or maybe it was a second or third down, but he saw, who's that guy? Darius Slay. Kind of playing a little far back in the cover two. And I think when the ball was snapped, Jordan Love looked over at him and knew that Slay was going to be sitting in the flat there and protecting the Allen Lazard. So immediately he went right to his second read, and I think it was A.J. Dillon in the flat, and he threw the ball off to him, and, just really making good sense out of those. But while I still have it in my head with this Aaron Rodgers thing, I think what I would like to see as a fan, because I think it comes down to a legacy perspective, and I think all Aaron Rodgers wants right now, and I guess first he has to evaluate realistically how many more years he wants to play.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's ever going to catch up to, all of these NFL records like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, some of these things that are just so far out of reach and just inconceivable to think of Aaron Rodgers being able to accomplish. Because, he came into the starting, 3 years into his career sitting behind Brett Favre. So
That's right.
I think all Rodgers wants to do is to just kind of win that last championship, and I think if he would have done it this year, he probably would have rode off into the sunset. So, if that's the case, and they are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, I would like to see Rodgers just sit out, recuperate, rest his body, get into football shape again, and even in the offseason, too, he can reevaluate what he wants to do, kind of what that downtime felt to him like, felt like to him during the season to not be able to play football. But additionally, I would also like to see him out on the field, with his hoodie on or whatever, and the play calling headset on, really being that mentor and staying involved in the game and being in Jordan Love's ear. I know he said in the past, it's not my job to coach these players, but I think that's a good step towards the next part of his career and what he wants to do in life. I don't want to say what he should do in life, but I think that's definitely a good step to take, is to just be a mentor for some of these guys. Or, maybe I'm going off on a tangent, but maybe he wants to go and smoke ayahuasca or whatever, drink ayahuasca and yell hippies with Blue of the Earth. I don't know what her name is, but
I say he should take the league minimum next year and go to the Denver Broncos.
Or just take the league minimum and see what the Packers can do with all of this cap space. I was gonna look. I forgot to look. I was gonna look at some of the upcoming, and I'll let you talk or whatever on the Lions or whatever. And I'll look it up. But I was gonna look up some of the 2023 impending free agents. Just to kind of see what, and we can even talk about that next week too. What each of these teams could potentially go out and target,
right?
Realistically, and specific players and stuff like that. So
okay, yeah,
maybe we'll save that for next week. That way we could target specific players.
Sounds good. Yeah, we can gather up a list on that.
So
next game we'll talk about is one I really tuned into, and it did not disappoint myself and just football fans in general.
Another Thanksgiving Day game.
It was fantastic too. This coming from someone whose team lost. It still was.
It was a good game.
It was a really good game.
Talking about the Lions versus Bills, of course.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Bills came up 28-25. I know there's probably a lot of people that thought it was going to be way more of a, point differential. Josh Allen again, man, he is just a gamer through and through. Ran the ball when he had to, threw the ball dynamically when he had to. 253 yards. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Hawk got another interception, which was cool. Didn't he? Or not Hutchinson, sorry.
Oh, yeah. That's confused.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, I think he did. Or at least tipped the ball.
Or no, it was Alazone, our linebacker did.
Oh.
I was thinking the previous week. But anyways, actually Detroit's defense was looking a lot better. They have the last couple weeks, which is kind of tying into their winning streak. Isaiah McKenzie was kind of the unsung hero in this. 96 yards, 1 TD. He really stood out. So that just shows Josh Allen, whoever's open, he'll throw to. Doesn't really care. If it's Diggs, if it's, Gabe Davis, doesn't matter. So, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I guess I wasn't too into it. That was the time that I was preparing the feast.
Yeah, it was kind of an early game.
Yeah, so getting everything ready there for the family. But, the Lions' offense looks pretty good, I guess. Um, I don't really have too much to say about that game. I mean, I think they just go and they work on their defense this offseason. And,
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm kind of going into the rest of season thoughts, but you said it all with my thoughts on the game. Thought it was a good game.
Yeah, I was
It
frustrated.
did come down to the last few seconds. Was it
Oh, it did.
overtime too?
Um,
Or I can't remember, but
it was the fourth quarter, I believe, but
they scored too early, right? And they gave
yes,
Allen
we
enough
gave
time.
Allen 38
yeah,
seconds, which I
that's
guess
what it
is
was. Yep.
too much time, and he threw a dart right down the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Just enough for them to kick a field goal and win. Again, for the Lions even to be in that position with the Buffalo Bills, if you would have told me that in the beginning of the year, I would have said you're crazy.
Yeah.
Amon St. Brown, he looks like he's back to his regular self. 9 receptions, 122 yards, so that was good to see him. DeAndre Soft, as I call him, not Swift, didn't do anything again.
You saw that stat line with Jamal Williams and where all of his touchdowns have come from.
Oh, it's red zone, period.
It's not just red zone, it's 1 yard line, 1 yard line,
Yeah.
1 yard line, 2 yard line.
The dude just
he
has
has like
to know
one 56 yarder, but yeah, that's where he's getting all of his fantasy production for sure.
It really is. He's and I mean, as long as we're scoring touchdowns, I don't care if it's Penny Sewell running it. It's terrific.
So he's on his last year of his contract too, isn't he?
Jamal is.
Yeah.
So I think they're really going to have to evaluate. Do you bring him back? You know what I mean? Or is it one of those James Conner deals where he gets 50 touchdowns and then he sucks the next year?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he reminds me of LeGarrette Blount. A little bit smaller, but just really had that knack for the end zone, you know?
Yeah.
So.
No, I'm happy with it. Looking forward to next week, Lions Jags. So we'll kind of go into rest of the season thoughts. If that's okay with you?
Yep. Well, I just had that in my head. I didn't really want to spit anything, but yeah, we'll transition right to the rest of the season thoughts. So for the Lions, I think all they need to do is just focus on their defense this offseason. Do they need any new coaches?
I still think the first, I would say 7 to 8 games, I was hell-bent on them firing Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator, and rightfully so. They were garbage. But I really don't know what happened these last 4 weeks, but they are ultra competitive. They all of a sudden get it. They're blitzing more. They're making other teams uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I say you finish out the season and then evaluate them. Their offensive coordinator is terrific. They got to keep him.
Yeah.
And I think they keep Dan Campbell another year at least.
Yeah, I really like the direction of that offense and the team for sure. Another struggling team kind of on the turnabout too is the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about the nice surprise with Justin Fields and the performance he's been having the past 4 or 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bears might want to hang on to him. I don't think they're in the talks of that, number 1, number 2 overall pick anymore. I think they're going to keep competing. Well, we'll kind of see what happens with Justin Fields here, and it's confusing with Fields because I feel like that team, if they know that they have him now and they are dead set, for sure gonna start him and be their franchise quarterback, I think it's hard to rush him back into the field and play and just, help all these fantasy managers with their football team, because I know I struck gold on him. He carried me a little ways almost to the playoffs, and so it'll be interesting to see what they choose to do with him, even if he is healthy or still kind of just aching every single week, if they just want to keep sitting him and just see how they finish. Because then in that scenario, maybe you do get a high pick, but you already know you want Justin Fields to stay. Then you could trade away the one of those picks for a king's ransom, basically, in draft picks, and really load up that team with some talent. And yeah, I think the Bears are looking good. I don't know if they want to change their offensive coordinator or something, but I think that's just a product of
I think it's their
nobody
offensive
but
line.
Justin Fields.
Right.
Yeah,
Their
exactly.
offensive line, I
Yeah.
mean, every defense is feasting, and they know Justin Fields is a 1 to 2 read quarterback at this point.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he will be, but he's gotten beat up. To your point, I'm surprised he lasted this long before getting injured with that bad offensive line. He was just kind of a sitting duck, but he's impressed me. I see a lot of Jalen Hurts in him as far as what he could be.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a bruiser, but also developing his passing. And man, if he gets a good running back and maybe one more weapon on the opposite side of Claypool, I think.
Yeah.
And their defense obviously needs a strong pass rusher. So if you're talking biggest need in draft, I think it could be a pass rusher.
Yeah. I want to ask this question too for each of the NFC North teams. Josh, who's the Lions franchise player? Or do you have him yet?
If I were watching a Lions game, I say we have two of them, and they're both on the opposite side of the field. Hutchinson, because if you just watch him play, you just see like he's already the leader and he's a rookie. And then Amon-Ra Brown, I think he's also a leader on that offense. Where he goes, the team follows. So
okay, yeah.
I think, I would have to say they have two franchise players. You're good.
Yeah, so Hutchinson and St. Brown,
Yeah.
franchise players, lock them up, keep them on that team. We thought that about Hawkinson earlier this year, maybe, but he went away.
He went away to the same division.
So for the Bears, I think it's pretty easy. I think it's Justin Fields.
Oh, no question about it.
I don't even want to look at the other side of the ball. I don't think they have anybody over there.
They traded him.
I think Justin Fields is clearly the best player on that football team, and I think he will be their franchise